Good evening. This is now the continuation of our lecture on fundamentals of accounting, but by this time we will tackle the principles of debit and credit. The application of debit and credit will be done on the accounting records called General Journal, General Ledger, and subsidiary ledgers. So this topic is for those who are considered beginners in accounting, whether accountants or non-accountants. So I've tried my best to put the terminologies as simple as I can so that it can be easily understood by every viewers of this video. So let's proceed to the first slide of lecture number 2 of fundamentals of accounting. So what are debit and credit? Debit and credit are the essential terminologies in accounting. You cannot understand the journal entries in accounting if you do not know the principles of debit and credit. Debit and credit are the terminologies used to connote increase or decrease in assets, liabilities, capital, revenue, and expenses. These are the terminologies used to connote increase or decrease in asset, liabilities, capital, revenue, and expenses. So the increase or decrease or the effect in the accounting equation was already discussed in the previous lecture under lecture number 1. So we will just apply the principles of debit and credit on the effect of transactions in assets, liabilities, capital, revenue, and expenses. We will use debit and credit to indicate increase or decrease based on the nature of the transactions. It is very important to know how it works and how it affects the individual accounts. So when you say debit and credit, it affects whether increase or decrease in every account title that we are going to discuss in analyzing every accounting or business transaction. Any wrong usage or application would result to a messy financial records and would take a lot of time for the bookkeeper or accountant to put things in order. So we must be careful in applying the principle of debit and credit when preparing journal entries or accounting entries. Because any error, any misusage of debit and credit would result to a disorder accounting or financial records. You just imagine how difficult it is to provide remedies for accounting records which are not properly maintained. So the following points should first be considered in order for us to understand the meaning of debit and credit. Number 1, you must have the ability to identify whether an item is an asset, liability, capital, revenue, or expenses. It is very important for the one preparing the journal entry to determine what are the affected asset, liability, capital, revenue, or expenses account. For example, prepaid insurance, it is an asset. If you do not know that prepaid insurance is an asset, you cannot prepare or you cannot apply the principles of debit and credit. Accounts payable is a liability. So those are examples of an item that you should be remembered in applying the principles of debit and credit. And in the previous lecture, I already gave examples of asset, liability, capital, revenue, or expenses for you to understand what are they. They are classified according to this accounting equation. So you must know how to identify. If you do not know how to identify, you may have some problems in applying the principles of debit and credit. Number 2, understanding the business transaction and its effect for the above named items. You cannot apply debit and credit if you do not understand business transaction. For example, sales on account. In the layman's point of view, they cannot understand the meaning of sales on account. But since this was already discussed in the lecture 1, I presume that everybody knows the meaning of sales on account. That means you sold merchandise but the customer did not pay you. The customer just promised to make payment in the future. So that is what I meant of understanding the business transactions and its effect. Sales on account has an effect. So you must know those effects, whether increase or decrease in asset, whether increase or decrease in liability, and so on and so forth. So without understanding the business transaction, you cannot apply the principles of debit and credit. And the last one, but very important and very simple, but knowing by heart the accounting equation. It is a mortal sin for every accounting student or every business student who finished accounting but doesn't know the accounting equation. Once you finish this course, basic accounting or fundamentals of accounting, you must know by heart the accounting equation. And you can never apply the principles of debit and credit if you do not know the accounting equation. Next slide, please. So below are the proper usage of debit and credit in business transactions that would result to the increase or decrease affecting the accounting equation. So this is very important. We must know the proper usage of debit and credit. Debit and credit simply connotes increase or decrease, because in the last lecture that we have, we prepared a table indicating increase or decrease in assets, liabilities, capital, revenue, and expenses. So it is we will just apply the same principle. We just replaced the increase or decrease by the terminologies debit and credit. So here are the proper usage. Increase in asset. When you say increase in asset, that is debit. Remember that. Any increase in asset means debit. We will use this when preparing journal entries. Decrease in asset, that means credit. Opposite. It is the opposite. Increase in asset, debit. Decrease in asset, credit. Increase in liability, that is credit, because liability is the opposite of asset. Try to compare. Increase in asset, debit. Increase in liability is credit. It is the opposite, because we are just following the accounting equation. Asset is on the right side, while liabilities and capital is on the left side. The total of the right side must be equal with the total of the left side. They must be balanced all the time. Next, Decrease in liability means debit. Next, increase in capital, that is credit. Decrease in capital, that is debit. There's nothing wrong if you will memorize this increase or decrease in asset, liability, and capital. But when you memorize, please try to understand why is it debit, why is it credit. Increase in asset means debit because that is an added value to the asset. When we are talking of asset, when we say debit, that is an added amount, value, or figure to the asset. When you say credit in asset, that is a decrease in amount. On the contrary, increase in liability is credit. Any added value or amount in liability should be credit, and any decrease in amount or value in liability should be debit. The same is true with capital. Any additional investment in the capital should be credit, and any withdrawal in capital should be debit. I hope that is very clear to everybody. So let's continue. Increase in revenue, as we discussed in the last lecture. Revenue, cost, and expenses affects capital. So when we say increase in revenue, there must also be an increase in capital. Increase in capital means credit, therefore increase in revenue, it means also credit. Because any increase in revenue should be added to the capital, that is why revenue follows with the capital. Increase in revenue means credit. Decrease in revenue means debit. Next, increase in expenses. Please remember our discussion last time. Expenses are deducted from capital. Try to look in the previous slide. Decrease in capital, debit. Therefore, increase in expenses or cost is debit. Because any increase in expenses are deductions from capital. That is why increase in expenses are debit. Decrease in expenses, that is credit. Try to compare revenue and expenses. They are the opposite. They are the opposite. Next. All journal entries that will be prepared will be based on the above principles of debit and credit. That is why it is important for you to understand these principles of debit and credit. It just replaced the increase and decrease principle. You cannot prepare journal entries if you do not know this principle. So try to remember and understand them by heart in order for you to survive in any future accounting subjects. Next. So these are now the books of accounts, or the accounting records being maintained in any organization. Whether your organization is a profit-oriented or a non-stock, non-profit corporation or foundation, you have to use these books of accounts. So we have three. The first one is the general journal. The second one is the general ledger. And the third one is the subsidiary ledgers. Let's explain them one by one. General journal. This is the book of original entry. Remember this. General journal is the book of original entry because transactions coming from the source documents will be first recorded in the general journal. If you purchase something, that business transaction is supported by official receipts. So the document, the amount, the date, indicated in the document will be recorded in the general journal. So the entries recorded in the general journal are original entries, fresh, coming from the transaction documents. So transactions will first be recorded in the general journal, wherein the principles of debit and credit will strictly be followed. So this is the books of accounts wherein the principles of debit and credit will be followed. Because if your entry in the general journal is not correct, all of the rest will not be correct. So we must be careful in recording transactions in the general journal. Account titles shall be entered whether debit or credit. To identify the nature of transaction by the reader of the financial records, appropriate explanations shall be provided for each transaction following the debit and credit entries. So in the succeeding slides, I will show you examples of general journal so that you can imagine how we can record the debit and credit in the general journal. So aside from the entered amounts in peso, we have to explain the nature of the transactions. And the narrative explanation of the transactions should be written after the entry of debit and credit. What is the use of that explanation? In case of audit, in case of verification, in case of investigation, the reader or the verifier of the books of accounts can clearly understand the nature of each transaction. That is why explanations for every journal entry is necessary so that the readers can understand its nature. Let's continue. So here is now the example of the general journal wherein journal entries will be entered. Remember, the general journal is the book of original entry. So here is the example. So the first column that you can see is the date. You will write the date or you will indicate the date of the transaction. What is the basis of the date? The basis will be the source documents. Example, you sold merchandise for cash. Of course, you will issue sales invoice and official receipts. Sales invoice is a proof that there is a sales transaction. Official receipt is the proof that you receive cash. So the date written on the sales invoice and the official receipts will be the official date that will be written in the general journal. What will you indicate in the particulars column? This will now reflect the account's title that you used, whether it is a sales transaction, expense transaction, or any other transaction. You will choose the right account title. That is why in the previous slide we emphasize that in order for you to understand the principles of debit and credit, you must know how to identify whether the account title that will be used is an asset, liability, capital, revenue, or expenses. So what will be indicated in the particulars are the specific accounts title. And those specific account titles are enumerated in our previous lecture. Example, cash, accounts receivable, accounts payable, sales revenue, and so on and so forth. So you will list them here in the particular column. Next, reference. This is very significant for you to trace the posting of this transaction. For example, if this transaction written in the general journal will be posted on page 1 of the general ledger, you will write here page 1 or general ledger 1. And then you will indicate the amount. For example, the transaction is 10,000, you will indicate here whether it is debit. If the transaction is credit, you will indicate here if it is credit. So the debit and credit columns represent the peso amount. So also in the particular columns, you will write the explanation of each transaction. You will see that when we prepare journal entries, when we solve problems concerning preparation of journal entries. Next, general ledger. What is a general ledger? General ledger is the book of secondary entry. This is because journal entries recorded in the general journal shall be posted with the general ledger according to its nature. In other words, this is the process of classifying, because each transaction with debit and credit entries shall be classified one by one in each ledger designed for each account title. Example, all transactions pertaining to cash shall be classified in one ledger for cash. In other words, for every account title, there must be one ledger. Meaning, if you have 25 account title, you will maintain 25 general ledgers. So you will classify them one by one. All transactions pertaining to cash shall be posted in the general ledger for cash. All transactions pertaining to sales will be recorded or posted in the ledger for sales. All transactions pertaining to capital shall be posted in the general ledger for capital. So that is the use of general ledger. And here is the illustration on how general ledger is being used. All transactions are coming from the general journal because the general journal is the book of original entry, and all of them will be classified to the general ledger according to account title. So if you have 25 account titles, you will be having 25 general ledgers. Next. So here is now an example of general ledger for you to understand its contents. So for example, this is the general ledger for cash. So you may notice the first column is date. What will be the date indicated? It is the date of transaction. Usually the date is coming from the general journal. Particulars, you will explain the nature of transaction. Example, if the transaction is sales for cash, you will write here sales for cash. What is the reference? You will indicate here where this transaction came from. If the transaction came from page 1 of the general journal, you will indicate here GJ1, meaning General Journal page 1. So the purpose of reference is for easy tracing of every transaction for paper trail purposes. So the next column is debit. You will write here whether the transaction is debit. If the transaction is credit, you will indicate the amount in the credit side, in the credit column. So meaning, the debit and credit represents peso amount of transactions. And then you will also write the balance. How will you compute for the balance? The total debit, you will deduct credit, you will arrive balance. Example, in the total, in your debit column, you have 100,000 pesos. In the credit column, you have 40,000 pesos. The balance is 60,000. That is how you use the general ledger. So we have here another example of general ledger. Try to look. This is the general ledger for cash. So it is divided into two sides, the left side and the right side. Take a look at the left side. You have the date, particulars, reference, and debit. The same heading. On the right side, date, particular, reference. The only difference is that on the right side, what will be indicated is the credit amount. So we will just follow the same principle. You will write the date, particulars, reference, and the peso amount in the debit side if the amount posted is debit. On the right side, you will indicate the date of the transaction. Particulars is the short explanation, the reference, the page number where it came from, and the peso amount in the credit side. So this example is almost the same with the first one that I presented. The only difference is that this is otherwise known as the T account. You may notice it is called T account because on the left side is debit, on the right side is credit. T account is the shortcut of the general ledger. Just make a letter T, indicate on the left side the debit, and write on the right side the credit amounts. The total debits and the total credits in the general ledger or T account shall be derived, meaning you will get the total of the debit, you will get the total of the credit, and then whatever is the difference between the total debits and the total credits shall be the balance of the account. Example, if you will total all transactions on the left side, the resulting total is 1 million pesos. On the right side, you get the total of all the amounts in the credit side, and the total credit is 800. You deduct 1 million minus 800,000. The balance of your cash is 200,000 pesos. As simple as that. Next. What do you mean by subsidiary ledgers? Subsidiary ledgers are the records supporting the general ledger. That is why it is called subsidiary or sub-ledgers in short. It supports the general ledger. So the total amount of the general ledger was broken down into different subsidiary ledgers. The total of the individual subsidiary ledgers must tally with the total of the single general ledger. So try to imagine, this is the general ledger. Out of that general ledger, we have different subsidiary ledgers. One general ledger can be broken down into numerous subsidiary ledger. So let's have an illustration. For example, cash in bank. This is your general ledger for cash in bank. What do you mean by cash in bank? This is the total amount of money you deposited to the bank. So the account title that you used in cash in bank is cash in bank. So out of that general ledger cash in bank, you have subsidiary ledger for cash in Metrobank because you have money deposited in Metrobank. So, aside from that, you have money in Land Bank. That is why you have another subsidiary ledger entitled cash in Land Bank. And then you have also money in BDO, and your subsidiary ledger is labeled as cash in BDO. So try to understand, the cash in bank is the general ledger, while cash in Metrobank, cash in Land Bank, cash in BDO are the subsidiary ledgers. If you have a total of 1 million in cash in bank, if you will get the total of cash in bank, cash in Metrobank, cash in Land Bank, cash in BDO, the total of the three must also be 1 million pesos. They must have the same balance. Again, if you have cash in bank in your general ledger of 1 million, the total of cash in Metrobank, cash in Land Bank, cash in BDO must also be 1 million pesos. Otherwise, there is something wrong in your subsidiary ledger or in your general ledger. So that is how we prepare the books of accounts. Next. So we must know the normal balances of each account title. What do you mean by normal balances? These are the balances that should normally appear in the ledgers. So let's take a look. Asset. The normal balance of any asset account should be debit. Example, if you have cash in bank, the general ledger of your cash in bank must have a debit normal balance, because all increases in cash in bank should be landed to the debit side. All decreases in cash in bank should be landed on the credit side. It is only normal in a cash in bank ledger that the debit side must be greater than the credit side. If the debit side is greater than the credit side in an asset like cash in bank, that is normal. Having a debit balance in any asset account is normal. That is why all assets has or have a debit balance as normal balance. I hope you were able to understand this explanation. So, the normal balance of asset is debit. Remember that. What is the normal balance of liability? The normal balance is credit. Why? Because all increases in liability are landed on the credit side, while all decreases are landed on the debit side. Since all increases are on the credit side, it is only normal that the total credit side of liability is greater than the debit side. Therefore, the normal balance of liability is credit, because normally increases are on the credit side. Increases must be greater than the decreases. Capital. What is the normal balance of capital? Just like the liability, the normal balance is credit. Why? Because we are following the accounting equation of assets equals liabilities plus capital. So they must be balanced all the time. All increases in capital are landed on the credit side, while decreases are indicated on the debit side. it is only normal to have a credit balance because all increases must be bigger than the decreases. What is the normal balance of revenue? Just like the capital, it is credit because revenue is added to the capital. Why? Because revenue belongs to the owner. So all increases in revenue are landed on the credit side while decreases are posted to the debit side. It is only normal to have the credit side greater than the debit because increases are always greater than the decreases. Expenses or cost. What is the normal balance? It is debit. Why debit? Because all expenses or costs are charged to the owner. All increases in expenses or costs are landed on the debit side while all decreases are posted on the credit side. It is only normal that all increases are greater than decreases. That is why the normal balance of expenses or cost is debit. So that is the normal balances that we must remember. Because in the preparation of the trial balance, you cannot make it balance if you do not know the normal balance of asset, liability, capital, revenue, expenses, or cost. Thank you again for watching and patronizing this lecture number 2 of Fundamentals of Accounting. I will immediately post the lecture number 3 so that we can have continuity of our lesson, and that lecture 3 will eventually cover preparation of journal entries, constantly applying the principles of debit and credit. Again, thank you so much for watching and good evening.